Go ahead.
Well, here's the thing. So I turn on the TV, and I'm watching something on the DVR, but underneath it is ESPN showing the World Poker Tour. And if you just listen to the audio of it, it really abhors me that they make it sound like a sport. It's always bugged me. They're talking about how this guy's got a golden bracelet and this guy's a great gambler. And I'm thinking, we're all playing a friendly game of poker. If you hand me a straight or a four of a kind or a full house, I could be a moron and still win a lot of hands.
Well, it's funny. And I won't mention his name, but there was a guy that I know who I played cards with, 20, 25 years ago.
Right.
Nice guy. He was in some local bands in the Buffalo area. And about maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. And, we played, it was casual, 5-card stud, the usual, poker type games, not Hold'em, because Hold'em wasn't big back then. But he wasn't particularly bad. He wasn't particularly great. He just, he was like everybody. And 5, 6 years ago, he ends up in the top 10 of the World Series. He just got ridiculous cards.
Right.
And when you get ridiculous cards, you can win. I mean, there is an art to bluffing. There's an art to the betting. And it's like, I'm like, yeah, that could be. I mean, hell, was it?
How would you break it down? 90% luck, 10% skill?
No, I think it's 95% luck.
That's what I'm saying.
There is skill to it. And they're like, it's like if I go up against Chris Moneymaker or Phil Hellmuth or one of these, or Daniel Negreanu.
Yeah, but if they get dealt bad hand after bad hand after bad hand, you're still going to win.
But they can read. They can read people's mannerisms.
Yeah, but I'm gonna wear dark glasses and look like I haven't slept the same as they do. And a hat down like this, and I'm gonna be like this.
I mean, I won't be.
How would you know if I'm like this?
Yeah, I won't be such an egomaniac to say that I could, because I think it all in the end it comes down to the cards. But the thing is, if you get good cards and you act like that, like you get good cards, then they just drop out and you make no money. That's how it works.
Right.
But yeah, it's just, I mean, I have to say I've watched.
But what if you go the other way and make up a fake tick for when it's the opposite?
Yeah.
You could do that because they don't know you, right? So they're going to think that's your tell, and you'd be roping them in.
I've watched the World Series of Poker on ESPN just because I'm flipping around every once in a while. I like playing Hold'em, but it's like I'm not like addicted to it or anything like that. It's just but you can watch it for like maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and then it gets friggin' boring. So it's like, if you want to entertain yourself, go on to Facebook and play like one of the apps Facebook that you can play poker on. That's more entertaining than actually watching it.
Makes sense.
All right, let's start. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Friday, March 31st, 2017.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Well, we had 9 games in the NHL last night. We'll get to talking about some of them in a few minutes. But we need to acknowledge Patrick Elias, who today it was announced is retiring from the NHL. And I was just saying to Russ before we went live, he played his last game against, I think it was against the Leafs. That was the game that clinched 30th place. So he has a special place in my heart for helping the Leafs get Austin Matthews. But he didn't play in the entire year. There was some talk at the end of last year of him maybe coming back and playing this year and being sort of a caddy or sort of a help to Pavel Zacha, but that never came to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I think it never came to fruition, not because Elias couldn't do it, I just don't think the Devils ownership wanted to pay for it. I think that's like I said, I think they're running things on a cost-cutting basis right now until they prove to me otherwise. So I think that had something to do with it. So, which is fine. I mean, look, wasn't going to be the same player, but he meant everything to the Devils. Like, this guy was a great player. He was a classy player. I covered him in All-Star games. He was just a delight to interview, just a very humble, like he's a guy, when you look at him, he's a borderline Hall of Famer. He won multiple championships. He was a big reason. He was a Ranger killer, and I still don't dislike him because he was a clean player.
Classy guy. Yeah.
And he was a talented player. And so there's something to be said. And even the way he walked away, very understated. He didn't even sign the one-day contract that I hate. I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
And I do hate those. I hate the one-day contract.
And, he won 2 Stanley Cups, got to a third final, or at least I think it was 3 finals. I'm just looking up right now. They did lose. I mean, they lost to LA. No, they didn't lose to LA. Well, yeah, they lost to LA. Excuse me. But 408 career goals, 1,240 games. I don't know. Is this a Hall of Famer?
He's really close. I think he could get in over time. I think it's going to take a few years. He's not going to be a first ballot guy, but I think during his era, you're never going to look at him and say he was one of the top 10 best players in the league.
Yeah.
But he's one of the top 10 most winners. And so, I think that'll work into his favor. He was a great part of a winning combination there.
Yeah, four finals. He won 2.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's, nothing to sneeze at.
No, not at all. Now, one of the games that sort of was off the radar last night because it really didn't have much implication, the Florida Panthers are officially eliminated. The Montreal Canadiens are pretty much a lock to finish first in the Atlantic. But after the game, Sean Thornton, who has a long and storied career against the Canadiens, playing not only for the Panthers but back against the Bruins, and we know that the Bruins and the Habs hate each other. Well, he had some special words for defenseman Alexei Emelin, who's not liked by many. Now, this is what Thornton said about Emelin. I think he's what's wrong with the league these days. I think there's no accountability anymore. You can run around and take headshots at our captain, which in the case of Florida is Derek McKenzie, and just turtle, and the refs save your life. I'm getting out at the right time because I liked the game when you had to be a man and to look at yourself in the mirror. So that's my honest opinion of that guy. I don't have any respect for him. I think he's a pretty good defenseman, but I don't like the way he plays. I don't mind people playing hard, but I've seen him with a lot of cheap crap, and I'm using crap instead of the other word, in the last 10 years. I don't mind battling, but I've seen him headhunt a lot of guys and never answer for it, and it goes on.
I think it's fair.
I think it's completely fair, and I think he's not saying anything that fans who watch their team play against the Canadiens or any reasonable, fair hockey observer said. Emelin has, I think it's metal plates in his head or face from an incident that happened in the KHL before he came to the NHL.
But what makes him different than Ulf Samuelsson? Like, there's just and when that guy's all of a sudden on your team, generally you don't hate him. So I mean, there's a lot of guys like this in the sport, the hate the face kind of guys. You hate them when they're on the other teams, and then when they're on your team, you sort of soften up to them.
Yeah, but
we're all guilty of that.
I get from the point of view of the Ottawa Senator fan, the hate for Darcy Tucker. But at least you can say this: Darcy Tucker fought his battles. He fought.
Sure. Samuelsson fought nobody, but still, but still, I mean, how hateable is he in after hockey? Like, I'm just saying, we probably jump on it a bit too much, but is this accurate of Emelin? Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think, whoever plays Montreal, which will probably be the New York Rangers, they're going to have to look out for this and I've seen players take runs at Emelin, and deservedly so, but he'll never fight. So, and that's the thing. It's like, there is no, as Thornton said, there is no accountability anymore. And it may be a very valid excuse that he won't fight because of this injury. Okay, great. Then don't be the type of player.
But that's the only thing that keeps him in the league.
Well, maybe. But no, if that's the only thing that keeps him in the league, then he doesn't belong in the league. But I understand from his motivational point of view, like he's making $4 million a year, so that's his meal ticket. But realize that you're a pariah in the league if you play that way. And I have to say that as somebody who's an observer of the Canadians, they tend to like those type of players. Some of them fight their own battles. Emelin is one of the guys who doesn't. So anyway,
Claude Lemieux played for 3 different franchises. He was one of those guys. Except he could score too.
Yes.
But I mean, plenty of those guys. Sean Avery was one of those guys.
Yeah.
And he amused us. I admit, I got amused by Sean Avery. I did.
Avery took immense pleasure out of just being a snot. He really just, it was just, there's part of me that likes that, but at a certain point, it gets a little.
Sure, I think that's fair.
Games last night that a particular consequence start at the top of the list here with the Maple Leafs and the Nashville Predators. Toronto, first game back for Frederik Andersen. He makes 29 saves, 3-1 victory going to Nashville. Typical after it wasn't a lengthy road trip. It was only a 2-game road trip, but they come back. Nashville was a little dozy for the first 2 periods. Woke up.
This is the worst case scenario for the Leafs because now your draft pick is gone.
Oh, stop. Would you please?
It's gone.
No. Okay. Right now, the scenario is the good scenario about making the playoffs. They have an actual chance to win a round because they will play Ottawa more than likely. And right now, we'll talk about this in a minute, Ottawa's in deep trouble. But yeah, they will give Ottawa a good series.
I'd like to see it for Noof versus the Leafs. That would be good.
Yeah, Alex Burrows versus them. That boy, I'm just like a lot of people in Toronto and Ottawa are just rubbing their hands with glee. But Frederik Andersen had a really good game after sitting out on Tuesday. Austin Matthews with his 36th goal of the year. Again, I wrote this yesterday, Russ. I says, I think that the race for the Hart is going to be close between Crosby and McDavid. The race for the Norris is going to be close between maybe Burns and Carlson, maybe Hedman. And like you said yesterday, I agree with it. I now think Matthews is running away with this.
He is. The race is almost over. It might be over.
And last night, line A, no points. Matthews has scored in seven. I think it's 7 games in a row now. He has 8 points in his last 7 games after going scoreless for 7 games. So, like any young player, he's streaky. But right now, when the games are really,
they asked me on my Friday spot on the Stellick and Simmer show about Matthews, and I said, I'm still seeing the same player I saw when he shocked me how good he was when I didn't really know who he was 4 years ago. Like, it's just, he's the same player. And the funny thing about it is the league doesn't have an antidote for him yet. When he is moving at full speed with the size that he is at, defensemen have trouble, and they get back on their heels because you don't know if he's going to pass or shoot, and he eventually gets close to the net, and he's deadly. I mean, he just, from 20 feet, he's deadly. And so that is a thing. And if he gets into the corner and he finds another player, he's a deadly passer. And so until some coach figures out a game plan for him, he's going to continue this.
Well, and that's the one advantage that the Maple Leafs have, and they've, I think, sort of procured it this year, is the fact that their team speed is, I mean, it may not be
the top 5.
Yeah, it's in the top 5, definitely. I mean, I was going to say, it may not be
teams I see.
Yeah, and Nashville had no answer for it until the 3rd period. They woke up. Philip Forsberg was let right to the net as Jake Gardiner skated in the corner for some unknown reason, and he scored his 30th goal of the year. And then Andersen really had to step up and make some saves, and he did, and they win a big 2 points. Now, they kept pace because earlier, before they even finished that game, Boston had won 2-0 to over Dallas.
Yeah.
Tuukka Rask with a shutout. They're getting, Boston has rebounded. We have to give them a little bit of credit.
I give them credit, but I never expected Rask not to rebound. That's the funny thing. For some reason, there's a lot of people that think in that market that Rask is like mentally fragile, and I don't buy it. I fight them all on Twitter all the time.
Yeah. Tampa Bay learns just before the game starts that Nikita Kucherov is not going to play because of the flu. And yet they go and maybe. And I took a lot of flack from this last night on social media because I said, the team that the Leafs maybe should be scared of is Tampa because they just keep charging. And the response was they're playing Detroit. I mean, I understand that, but
you still have to win the game.
Yeah, you still have to win the game. They lost to Arizona last week. Teams lose to teams that they're
right.
better than, but they won 5-3 yesterday. And one of the worst goals. I mean, I felt bad for Danny DeKeyser. He scores the tying goal. I believe it was in the second period, and a shot gets past the Detroit goaltender about 3 or 4 minutes after, and the puck is laying in the crease, and his intent was to knock it into the corner, and he flubbed, and the puck was flipping, and he knocks it in his own net. It wasn't Steve Smith bad, but it was pretty bad. And Tampa Bay.
I mean, it happens. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I know. It's just, that's sort of symbolic of the Detroit season. So it's, they're going to finish in the bottom 3 or 4 in the league in terms of record, and they're going to get a high draft pick, and that I think will help them along their road.
And they'll make a splash in free agency because they have a new arena. They're going to have to.
Well, that's the thing. What splash? I mean, there's not a splash unless it's Shattenkirk. There's not a splash.
Oh, they're going to certainly be in on them. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think that's a mistake. I think throwing money at Shattenkirk when you're probably 3 or 4 years away from being a back to the level that the Red Wings.
But they got to sell the arena. You got to think about that.
Yeah. I mean,
I know. I'm just telling you.
I mean, they're in cap trouble too. So I don't know. I don't know if that
maybe Vanek comes back. I mean,
it's possible they got their assets for him, and Vanek really has been sort of like a third line guy with Florida.
Yeah.
So
maybe he comes back. That'd be a good pickup if he does.
Yeah. Now Carolina is sort of like. It's sort of like the Black Knight in Monty
Python, the Holy Grail, yeah.
Grail, because they keep going no matter what happens.
They're like the Flyers of last year, where it didn't look like they were going to get in, and on the last day they got in. If Carolina continues to do this, they might get in on the last day. They might.
Now they were losing 1-0. Jack Johnson had scored a goal. I think it was in the second period. They tie the game late, and then Noah Hannafin scores in overtime. They've earned
really nice goal. Like he steps up into a loose puck, and so for any of the Hannafin haters or people that are wondering, well, is he really going to be? Well, that's a heck of a play right there for a second-year player.
Yeah. So they win 2-1 over Columbus, and Columbus needs the points right now because they're battling Pittsburgh for home ice advantage in the first round of the playoffs. And I haven't looked at the standings, but I don't think they're within range of Washington, and maybe 3 or 4 points. It's not likely.
Sounds about right.
Now, the way the race stands right now, Toronto has 89 points, Boston 88, Tampa Bay 85, and Carolina 84. Now, all of a sudden, Russ, the Ottawa Senators, they have lost a bunch of games in a row. They're at 91 points. The Leafs are only 2 points behind Ottawa entering the final week of the season.
Yeah, Ottawa needs a win badly.
Yeah, and they did not look good against, Minnesota has struggled this month. And, I mean, Ottawa, Erik Karlsson missed his first game in 4 years.
In like 326 games or something.
Yeah, something like that. Mathot is out, obviously, with the –
That's their top pairing. I mean, take away any team's top pairing, they're going to be hurt.
Yeah, and there were I think I'm pretty sure it was Mark Stone that was out. There was another one of their forwards was out as well. So
that's a big one.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a very deep team. So if you take away 2 or 3 pieces, they're going to be in trouble. So
they need a couple points badly. They do.
Yeah. Now you were at the game last night in Philadelphia. I watched the first period of it, and then
I'll put game in quotations.
Yeah, and then after it was 3-0, I turned it off because obviously the Islanders didn't show up. So why should I keep watching?
Now here's the thing: in this game, there were 2 Gordie Howe hat tricks, and one by Wayne Simmons, one by Dale Weiss. Weiss's came 8 minutes and like 26 seconds into the game. that gave you an indication of how bad this game was going for the Islanders. What's funny is, in this day and age, I no longer care about the Gordie Howe hat trick. I don't care.
Yeah, and that was a very costly Gordie Howe hat trick because Travis Hamonic broke his hand.
Well,
So,
I'll tell you what my reaction was from the press box when he was fighting. Why is Hamonic fighting?
yeah, he's trying. I mean, he was trying to.
I get it, but why is he fighting?
Because
you let the guy who's paid to fight, or somebody else, not him.
But who is that on that roster?
Well, there isn't anybody, I guess.
Yeah.
But
they don't have Matt Martin
I'll tell you who scored his 5th goal of the year, or 4th or 5th. Cal Clutterbuck. Let him fight.
Okay. I mean, the whole
he's got 20 points on the year. That's more Cal Clutterbuck's to now. If the Islanders weren't completely out of it, they are now anyhow.
Yeah, I mean, and again, when we've said this a few times on the show, having the situation with Garth and Doug Waite, firing Capuano. I mean, that's an organization that, and then the uncertain status of John Tavares' contract situation. That is an organization in flux right now, and I mean, it could very easily be like we've said. Maybe Garth gets kicked upstairs. Maybe he gets fired outright because you got new ownership there. And honestly, the results of this year, as opposed to what happened last year, where they had, they got through the first round and then lost to Tampa. I mean, you lost players like Opozo, you lost to Franz Nielsen.
Here's the weird thing. The weird thing is that Waite's got a pretty good record, but he didn't make the playoffs. He's an interim. They haven't extended him. You don't know what the GM situation is. In my mind, what I think will happen is I think Garth will go upstairs. They'll bring in someone like Dale Talon, and they'll hire someone like Gerard Gallant. If I were the Islanders, that's the move I would be trying to make to stabilize the organization. Now, of course, they'd have to get Talon's, they'd have to get permission from Florida, who I think they would give permission at this point, or even if it's a draft pick, I'll give you a draft pick for Dale Talon. I don't even have a problem with that. I'm just saying they need to get stabilized quickly because they need to be good so they could sign John Tavares. And if they don't give that impression, then it could really start to tumble for them.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be ironic that they're going to an organization that's inherently unstable right now in the Florida Panthers to get a guy to provide?
But they were stable when Talon was in charge.
I agree. But to me, that just shows the dysfunction of Florida because you have a guy there who you should be listening to, who you've basically, I mean, from all reports, he's not in a power position anymore. He's sort of been ostracized. He's got a title, but he doesn't have any power anymore.
I mean, Gallant's. He worked in the Islanders organization as an assistant, I believe, so he is familiar. And you know what? It would be good. They need it. No slight to Doug Waite. I think he's done a pretty good job. But yesterday, his team wasn't ready to play. Their defense was non-existent for that whole first period. Absolutely didn't show up, and even for parts of the second, didn't show up. Then they started to, pour on the offense a little bit. Too little, too late. It's not all the coach's fault, but I'm just saying I don't think the coach had a great enough effect as an interim to give him another go next year. Now, if he wants to be an assistant again, I certainly would let him.
There are some situations around the league that we're going to have to see how they unfold. I mean, one of them is right here in River City, right in Buffalo, the situation with Dan Bylsma. Now, there still has not been any kind of explanation about what exactly happened with Sam Reinhart, but Sam Reinhart in a game.
He showed up late to a meeting.
But do we really believe that was it? And because honestly, if you're
yes, because I do believe it because they just got strict with that rule, and it literally happened that day. Now he said that he didn't get the text right away on his phone, and yada yada yada. End of the day, you're a hockey player. You have nothing else to do but go to that meeting that you're going to have. If you have to wait for a text instead of asking one of your buddies, hey, what time is the meeting? I didn't see anything on it, then it's on you. And if you're the Sabres organization, after you just set this rule in stone, you have to do what you did.
No,
only because Okposo was sick did they make him actually stay on the bench?
The weird thing about the Sabres organization right now is that, Bylsma is in year 2 of a 5-year contract.
Yeah.
I'm not in favor. I think it would be stupid to fire him after 2 years.
Absolutely.
Especially since, if you believe the reportage that is coming out right now, there's something about, Eichel and Reinhart and
whatever. I don't care.
This little chatter about, the young guys sort of rebelling. Okay, that happens with every organization. But there is a lot of talk that one of the reasons why they won't fire Bylsma is because Terry Pegula, who owns the Sabres and the Bills, is already paying Rex Ryan to not coach for the Bills, and he's hired a new coach. He doesn't want to pay Dan Bylsma to not coach for the Sabres and a new coach. So, it's very strange how an ownership group here, how the NFL in a way may be affecting the NHL.
Yeah, but when you're tied, when you own the 2 teams, it happens.
Yeah, it's sort of bizarre, but yeah, okay. We did this a couple days ago. I just want to take a look at the.
By the way, have you seen Rex Ryan at any Sabres games lately?
Yeah, all of a sudden he's gonna become a Leaf fan again because he was a Leaf fan before.
Guaranteed, Leafs are in the playoffs. You'll see Rex Ryan. Guaranteed.
You really think so? I don't know. Well, we know he'll be at every.
He'll be there with Rob. Trust me.
Oh boy. Well, right now, if the playoffs began today, it would be the Montreal Canadiens and the New York Rangers in the first round. Ottawa, Toronto.
Nobody saw that coming.
Ottawa and Toronto. Right now, Ottawa would have the home ice. And by the way, here's an interesting little side note. The Ottawa Senators, the building, Canadian Tire Center. Now tell me this doesn't prove to you that the Ottawa Senators didn't think they were going to make the playoffs. They scheduled a Dixie Chicks concert on Thursday. The Thursday at the beginning of the playoffs. So, and more than likely, most of the time when you're playing game 1, game 2 at home, or game in the same location, there's going to be a day in between but sometimes it can be back to back, depending on building availability. But because there's a Dixie Chicks concert on Thursday, if they do play Toronto and it's in Ottawa, it would have to be Wednesday, Friday because of the Dixie Chicks.
But that's not a real indicator, because wasn't the Guns N' Roses concert here in Wells Fargo during the playoffs, and then when Axl didn't show up and they ripped out the seats, they had trouble getting in all the seats before the playoffs, right? It does happen.
It does happen. Every time something like that happens, I think back to Madison Square Garden and the circus.
Oh yeah. I think the Guns N' Roses is the better one to use for today's era, because fans were so mad, because I want to say he showed up for maybe 2 songs or didn't show up at all. Actually, I don't think he showed up at all.
No, okay, and I can't remember the specific year, and we're drifting a little far afield here, but so what? I went to go see Guns N' Roses and Metallica. This is at what is now New Era Field, but used to be Ralph Wilson Stadium or Rich Stadium. Outdoor concert. Metallica was the opening act. There was an opening act. I think it was Faith No More. I'm trying just doing my memory. This is 25 years ago. And Metallica was on. They did their set. They were great. And Guns N' Roses was supposed to go on at 9:00. Axl didn't feel like coming on stage until 11:45. You had 75,000 people that wanted to kill the song.
Yeah, he was a no-show in Philly in 2002.
Yeah. They wanted to kill the SOB. They really did.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, but Axl Rose is a good guy. In 2012, he apologized for the 2002 no-show.
Better late than never.
I think that's kind of funny, actually.
Yeah.
A decade passed, and then he's like, I'm really sorry about that show.
Okay, so as continuing on, Washington would play Boston and Columbus and Pittsburgh. So those would be the matchups in the East. In the West, it would be after last night with Nashville losing, it would be Chicago, Nashville, Minnesota, St. Louis, Anaheim and Calgary, and Edmonton and San Jose. Now, Connor McDavid scored a ridiculous goal last night, which, it's gotten to the point. It almost has gotten to the point of being boring. You know what I'm saying? He's so good.
Yeah, he is.
And now, but the question is, I mean, Crosby is having a phenomenal year. And I think in almost any other year, if he had those statistics, he would win. But because they won the Cup, and he won the Conn Smythe, and I think the NHL is so anxious to put Connor McDavid on the throne.
I don't think it's that as much as could the Penguins win without Crosby? Yeah, I think so. They've shown that they've gone through stretches. What would Edmonton be like without Connor McDavid?
Yeah.
I don't think they're making the playoffs.
Right. Well, I mean, I heard the argument who's more valuable to that team, McDavid or Cam Talbot. But see, you can't base the value of the player on who his backup is.
No, you can't.
I mean, just because, okay, Cam Talbot has played 70-plus games. Well, I think that's a statement on Peter Chiarelli not getting a backup. You should have gotten a backup because, God forbid if he pulls a groin and you have Laurent Boisson as your goaltender, you're in trouble.
Yeah, in the playoffs you'd be in trouble. Although I like the guy, but I get what you're saying. I still would give it to McDavid, and it's not about wanting him to have the throne now. I think it's just more of this is a year where he is driving his team to the playoffs.
Yeah. Now there were a couple more college free agent signings. One this morning for the Philadelphia Flyers. Russ, you wanted to mention that? Talk about that?
Yeah, Mike Vecchione signed with them, and I think it was a great signing. I think the fact that it took so long was probably just because he had other offers from other teams, and the big reason. Look, he went to camp with them. I wrote about it. It's on Sportsology. I really do think this was a real situation of where the camp had a great effect on him, and it elevated his game and his training going into the next season. This season, he had the best year. No, you could say it's because he was a senior, but I think it was really because the camp just hit the right spot with him, and he matured as a player. And he looked good with the players in camp last year too. So for people to worry about, well, I don't know if he's an NHLer, the Flyers had a chance to see him with their best prospects, and he didn't look out of place. So I think that's a good sign. I look at their team, and the fourth-line center has always been a dead spot for them. I mean, who was it? Ryan White was pretty good at it. He was. But then they got rid of him, and Lubimov, kind of lukewarm. They put Bellemare in that spot. You don't want Bellemare to be your 4C, really. You'd want him to be your winger. Yeah. And so I think Vecchione is the perfect situation. Let him get his feet wet. They are burning a year. Mm-hmm. He's going right to RFA. So that's a gutsy move by the Flyers, but a good move because it's still not really costing them anything. And they've now added a potential player either this year or next year based on how he looks, for the end of the rest of this season, whether he's with the big club or Lehigh, and then what he looks like next year. And so coming into camp, I like the signing. Mm-hmm. The kid plays great defense. I mentioned we did our taping today how I liked him in faceoffs, and Adam Woden actually had the stat where he says he's one of the best guys in college hockey in faceoffs. So I didn't even realize that. I just knew he was good on faceoffs from the eye test.
Yeah, and you can see the trend going on right now. We talked yesterday about the 1-year college guy and then gone, but also the burning of that year, the signing that the Sabres did a couple days ago, C.J. Smith. They're burning the first year. It was a 2-year deal with the first year being this year. So yeah. I'm assuming he's going to get into one game before the end of the season if they're that's the whole purpose of it. But that is a way, because what it does is it lets them get to RFA sooner so they can get more money. It gets past the entry level limitation. And, because most of them at a certain age, 23, 24, they can sign a 1 or 2 year deal. And then after the entry level, then they can, maybe there's some room for negotiation or a way to get more money. So that's the whole point here. So, speaking of entry level to an extension, now this hasn't been done yet, but it set everything abuzz last night in Leafland. Bob McKenzie and Elliot Friedman both reported that the Leafs are on the verge of signing Nikita Zaitsev, the defenseman they brought over from the KHL last year, to a 7-year contract extension for $4.5 million, or at least in the neighborhood of $4.5 million per. First, what do you think of that? What do you think of if it is 7 years, if it is 4.5?
I don't know if he's proved enough to get 4.5. I get the 7-year term because he's young, but I don't know if he's proved enough to get 4.5 out of me. So I'm always the guy that would prefer to pay more on a lesser term, but since this is his only body of work, I would prefer to pay him like $4 million for like 3 years.
Yeah, see, I think where the Leafs were on this was the value. First of all, they like him a lot, and he likes Toronto. So it's a good marriage in that respect. He wanted the long-term security, and when you're buying now, 2 more years after this year, he's a UFA. So they're buying 5 unrestricted years. And if you look at the salary, I think I was just doing some research for my article today. 40 players, 40 defensemen in the NHL are between $4 and $5 million. So that's basically what you're paying for a top 40.
How many of them have more experience than he does? Probably most of them.
Maybe.
I would say I would hazard a guess 90% of them have more experience.
You may be right, but the thing is, I think the most important thing here is that he's had experience. It's been in the KHL, but they've also, it's not like sight unseen. They didn't sign this guy to a 7-year deal. Coming out of the KHL, they wouldn't have been able to because he has to play entry level. But
true.
But Babcock got a chance to actually handle him, coach him. They know the type of player he is. They like his personality. They like everything about him. So I think it's an understandable deal, and I think it's a pretty decent deal because, like the deals they signed last April, I think they got value. Depending.
I'll tell you, it's a good deal after I see him next year. If he has a sophomore slump, then people are going to start to question this deal. You realize that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I do. But see that I think the thing
there's no safety net with this deal. There's no we could give him a bridge deal. There's no safety net with this.
Right. Yes, they're rolling the dice, and in a sense, Zaitsev is rolling the dice because he probably could have made
He's not rolling
the dice. Follow this. If he was as good as he was this year, the next 2 years, and he signs a 2-year deal, and he goes right into UFA at age 27, he can make $6 million a year. Now that's assuming a lot.
It's assuming a lot.
It's assuming a great deal, but I've watched him. He's a point guy in the power play.
Mm-hmm.
Played top pairing minutes most of the year. Now he's playing on the second pairing with Jake Gardner. I think I've been shockingly surprised at how well he's played because there's always that.
But he could be better in his own end. He could be.
Yes, but I think that's a symptom of the structure of the Leafs defense, and this is sort of where I'm going for my article today. Is if you look at them, they signed Kadri and Riley at the end of last year to very team-friendly deals. Riley at $5 million, Kadri at $4.5 million. So for the long-term extension, they got term, but they also got value. This is another type of deal like that. Now the thing is, though, now they have Riley locked up for 5 more years. They have Zaitsev locked up for 7 more years. Jake Gardner is an unrestricted free agent in 2 years, and he's the Leafs' leading defensive scorer, and he's not the Leafs' best defenseman, at least in my estimation. And of course, I had people attacking me or thinking I'm insane because I said that. But Jake Gardner is a flawed defenseman. But Jake Gardner, if he registers 40, 45 points the next 2 years, he's going to be asking for $6 million a year again.
Yes.
And the Leafs will not pay him. So,
all right, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How many points does Zaitsev have?
34.
Okay. What's his plus minus?
Oh, he's big minus right now because he's been on the top pairing with Riley.
Right. Okay.
But I do love how the people who say plus minus is worthless have pointed out to me that Jake Gardiner is plus 25. Oh, it validates your argument when it's a guy that you like analytically.
How old is he?
Who? Zaitsev? 25.
Okay. So here's a different situation, but this is where this kind of salary screws up the structure of the league. So Shane Gostisbehere, 23. How many points? 35. What's his plus minus? Minus 15. Is he getting $4.5 million in the offseason? No.
Not from Philadelphia. No way.
So what's the difference between the players? Why is Zaitsev better? Why is he worth a 7-year deal? You know what I'm saying? This is the inequity if you're a player where
the difference is that Zaitsev was 2 years away from unrestricted free agency, and Gostisbehere is probably 4. And they can get away with a bridge deal, so they will. But the Leafs in this situation, if they did a bridge deal with Zaitsev, it would have been 2 years, and he would have been able to walk free. Or if they would have signed him for 3, they probably would have paid him close to what they're paying him now. They probably would have paid him $4 million, like you said. And they said, well, if we can get him for 4 more years and only pay $500,000 more a year, then that's beneficial to us because we think he's going to be good down the line.
But you understand where the structure of this.
Yeah, okay. It's not an equal play. It's not an even playing field. I mean, hell, look at Roman Yossi's contract right now. You think Roman Josi? I mean, he's making a little over $4 million a year. And Roman Yossi's.
Although once a player hits $3-4 million, I don't feel bad for him in any.
Well, no, but when other defensemen who are not as good are making twice as much.
I know.
Duncan Keith is making $5 million a year. Seabrook is making more, and the only reason Duncan Keith is making $5 million a year is because he signed a 14-year contract. So, I mean, I'm just saying, and my point is, with Gardiner's contract up in a couple years, Gardiner having arguably a career year this year, his value is probably going to be at its highest. And I've long been of the opinion that the Leafs are sort of setting up Gardiner to prop up his value, which they have. I think it's a perfect opportunity for them in the summer, even though they need defense. If they're looking for a guy like Jacob Trouba, and you have to trade a defenseman back in that deal, that Jake Gardiner would be the defenseman that they would trade. Yeah,
I think that's fair. I do. Now, I got an interesting tweet. Didn't think the Islanders would be a top 10 pick this year. See, that guy is basically you, and basically that's that's the trading places part of the show where now the Islander fan who thought he was going to make the playoffs now has to settle with the top 10 pick, which is fine. If they're going to get a good pick, but you see the irony of that.
Well, yes, but my whole, and I'll say it one more time, my whole point with this was if the Leafs had like little or no chance to advance or have any kind of learning experience in the first round of the playoffs, I didn't think there was a benefit to making the playoffs. If they were going to play Pittsburgh or Washington and get massacred, I didn't see the benefit. But if they're going to finish in third place and play Ottawa, I think there's a benefit there because they could win. And I think that learning how to win, learning the battle that it takes to win in the playoffs is a beneficial thing.
What if they get massacred by Ottawa, then what?
Well, then you know that there's a lot more work to do.
Oh, but now you're not going to be mad?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to separate my professionalism from my fandom there, Mr. Coe.
Okay, that's fair. I do want to mention, interesting how the Cornell Sun, which I guess is the magazine for Cornell University,
yes,
when Patrick McCarron, their top pairing defenseman, got signed by the Red Wings, they headlined it, McCarron signs deal with Red Wings AHL affiliate. Like
they did the same thing with the goaltender. Is it Gilliam or Gilliam?
Yeah. Now this is a weird thing that's happening now, where like this is still the Red Wings. It's still a contract. It's just an AHL contract. That's all it is.
Right.
But he could sign a regular pro deal after that.
Yeah. No, I mean you notice now.
I shouldn't say a pro deal, but a two-way deal.
Right. An NHL contract.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, and I don't think the Leafs were the first team to really have this kind of structure. Maybe they were, but I mean, there was a genuine effort a few years ago for the Leafs. The Leafs' philosophy was sign a lot of players to AHL contracts, get them in the organization,
Build the pipeline,
build the pipeline. And now I think they're even extending it to the ECHL because the Cornell goaltender was signed to an ECHL contract.
Yeah.
Now that might be a step up to them signing to an AHL contract if he plays well, or just to get him in the organization. And I think that's fine because if you can get players to accept those deals and get into the pipeline and learn how to play and do all those things, I think that's but
I think for McCarron it's smart because he's not going to be a top pairing guy in the NHL. If he makes it, he'll be a bottom pairing guy. But he's big, he's strong, he's a good skater. He can definitely move the puck. We'll give you a little offense, has a good physical play, and now he gets to go through a playoff run with Grand Rapids, who generally does well in the playoffs. And so this gives him experience. After that run, then it's smart for the Red Wings because they've got a good long look at him, and they need help on defense. So he could have he could be on the fast track for them.
7 games in the NHL tonight. I think the highlight game is Pittsburgh and the Rangers. I saw
who for Pittsburgh?
What's that?
A highlight for who? Pittsburgh?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I saw something about a couple Rangers coming back from the injured list tonight. There was a possibility of them doing that, but
you really still think they're beating Pittsburgh?
Well, I don't know. It's possible. I mean,
anything's possible. It could stop raining, but it hasn't.
Devils and the Islanders playing out the string. Blue Jackets and Blackhawks. That's a pretty good matchup. Blue Jackets were stuck in Carolina, stuck in Raleigh after last night's game. I guess either their plane had trouble or there's some weather problems, but they're flying into Chicago today for that game, which is unusual. Usually they'll fly in, they'll leave right after the game, but they couldn't get out of North Carolina. St. Louis.
Wasn't it a plane issue?
I think it was a plane issue. I thought it might have been weather too, but I know for a fact there was some plane issue.
Yeah.
St. Louis and Colorado. St. Louis could put some distance between them and Nashville for third place in the Central. They're a point ahead right now. Sharks and the Flames. I don't know, Russ. There are a bunch of teams that have struggled down the stretch. The Rangers a little bit. Minnesota has been very noticeable. San Jose also has not had a good March, and maybe it's the veteran thing. I mean, I heard somebody talk about the NBA and talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers, how they've sort of like just switched things off, and when the playoffs start, they're going to switch things on. I don't know if teams can do that. It's not.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, like for the Rangers, I got to look it up. What their home record is. It's not good, and that's the thing. You have to break through these barriers now. Otherwise, it doesn't look good for you in the playoffs. It just doesn't. So, we'll see. I'm trying to get the home record here. Let's see. But I think that's where you have to start looking at things and saying, like if the Rangers were going to prove to me that they're over their home problem, beat Pittsburgh tonight. And that'll go a long way into doing it. I'll find out. I got to look on my computer. My phone's not being good.
Okay. The last 2 games, Kings and Canucks. Capitals and Coyotes. Capitals are another team that's sort of like just I think there's 4 or 5 teams that probably wish the playoffs had started in mid-March because
there's no doubt. I mean,
they had nothing much more to play for, and just wanted to get where games were consequential again, and they still had a month to go, so it's sort of like the dog days. It's sort of like August in Major League Baseball where you just want to get past it.
It is. It's a hard thing, though, like to say, well, you want to be that hot team going into the playoffs, but it's hard to get that going. All right, so the Rangers on the season are 19, 16, and 3, but I think they've lost 7 in a row at home.
Wow.
Let's see.
All right. We'll end it here. I'll just to say that for baseball fans out there, opening day is Sunday. The Yankees played in Tampa. I think most of the rest of the major leagues starts on Monday. It's it's always a sign of weather warming up, and when I'm not watching hockey, I am watching baseball. I'm not saying that the Yankees are going to do anything this year because
I can guarantee I won't be on Monday's show because I'll be at opening day.
okay.
That's the better opening day. Although,
please, the better opening day. Well, I'd rather be at Citi Field.
Wait. Would you like to look up who has a better opening day record, the Mets or the Yankees? Better winning percentage?
I don't care. I just care about those 27 World Championships.
Listen, we're only talking about opening day here.
For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Lagello.
Wait, hold on. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it looks like they've lost 7 in a row at home, if this is right.
There you go. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Lagello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.